G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode. So this week we're going to be trying to get onto the Companionway Slide here. So last week I cut it out and I've had it sitting on this bench because the heat had distorted a little bit. I've put some weights on top. So I just wanted to try and get a few of those bends and twists out of it and get a bit more flat. So I'm going to try and create a fiddle to glue and screw onto the front of it so it's nice and easy to open and close. And we're going to get a layer of fiberglass on and see how far we can get with the fairing. So I'm going to start on that. Let's get cracking. Alright, the first thing I want to do is set up a center line on my piece so that when I create the fiddle, I want that perfectly in the center as well. We'll just put a center line on both and match them up and then glue and screw them on. So let's get the center line. The opening on my companionway is 750 wide. It's quite wide for a boat, but we're going to have some big stuff go in and out of that boat, and that's our main entrance in and out. Used to have that big butterfly hatch up the top, which you could have craned things in and out with a boom, but we took that out and put some Vitas hatches in. So now our biggest entryway is the companionway, so we didn't want to narrow it too much like some boats. So 750, I'm going to mark that up here. So I've got basically the width of the companionway either side, and I know how much I'm going to work with, so then I'm going to design up my fiddle to work with that space. So let's mark that out. Alright, we've got set up my companionway width now, so got our line drawn on there. That's basically where the companionway will end. And we've got the center line and we've got the other side. So in between there and this line is where the companionway will be seen, and this goes underneath into our little slide mechanism we're making. So between here and here I'm going to make a fiddle to go across the top. It's probably not going to go all the way to the end, but yeah, just going to get a bit of timber and make something that's going to be a comfortable hand grip. You don't want it too thin, because then if it's a bumpy or hard to pull, you're going to possibly bend your fingernails back trying to get it done. So let's have a look at some timber that I've got. So I've gone through all my timber that I've got stashed here at home. I don't like spending money on timber when I've got a whole bunch here that I can reuse from other projects. So I've got plenty of this marine ply, little offcuts, but that's too thin. I don't want to be putting that down and using that as a slide, and I don't really want to double it up because it's probably too big once doubled up. I've got big chunks of this European larch left over from other jobs. It's got some beautiful grain on it. European larch is a nice timber, I love it. We've got some just hardened pine here, Tassie pine. And this is spotted gum, it's Australian timber. But this is, it's already rounded on a few different sides. So I've also, this is left over from other jobs that I've done, it's already got a cut down the middle. It's probably not ideal, and it's too high and too square, so I think I'm going to choose this one, even though it's got some paint on it. I can clean that up, and it's about the right size. I like that it's basically the size of my finger there, that little index part. So that's going to be a really nice size to use as a slide. So we're going to go with this piece, and it's about the right size. I've got to cut it down a little bit. So if I line it up here and there, we're just going to come in from that line a bit so we don't jam up either side. And we're going to probably cut a bit of an angle on it just to pretty it up a bit and round the top sides off, top corners. So let's clean this piece of wood up. Alright, back to getting some nice clean timber. So now we're going to cut the length and then get that angle and round off the edges. Just going to set the length. So the width of this companionway is 750. We're going to have a centimetre either side of clearance so we don't jam up going back and forth. So I'm just going to measure that at 730 mil. So my combination set is at the boat, so I just got this engineer square that I set up at a 90-degree angle just to give me a nice mark here that I can cut. And I'll cut that on the table saw. So now that I've got this cut, its overall length is now 730. I want to put my center line onto here so that I can line it up with my center line on the Companionway Slide. So half of 730 is 365. So we're going to mark that out. $365. One line there, one line there. Put my 90-degree here. Transfer that to this side. And this side. So now I have the ability to come and line this up with my center line, make sure it's perfect. Get the back side nice as well. So when we glue it now, we know that this line is transferred all the way along and that both sides either way are going to be both the right side. So my next step will be to put the 45 on. Since most of my nice cutting tools are at the boat, I'm just going to work this with a chisel. Alright, so Got these 45s cut. I've also sanded a radius on all the edges. So nice radius all the way along. And a nice smooth transition. So yeah, it's a nice smooth piece of timber now, ready to be put onto the center line and glued and screwed down. So we're getting there. So that's a wrap for today. Tomorrow I'm going to put some more fiberglass on the bottom just to completely wrap it in fiberglass. The resin went off a bit quicker than I was hoping, so I was going to fold these sides down and just make that all neat and tidy, and then just one more layer doubling over the sides tomorrow. However, the resin went off a bit earlier than I was hoping, so I'll have to trim these off once it all dries and then wrap the bottom over the sides. But it came up pretty nice. So I don't know whether I'll do 2 layers or 1 layer, but we'll start off with 1. I'll see how strong it is. We might put another layer on afterwards, but this will get another layer of epoxy, thickened epoxy over the top as a fairing compound, and we'll sand it all nice and flat and take out any high or low spots, pretty it right up. We'll give it an undercoat and then a nice white coat over the top. So I don't know if I'll leave it prime for now, and then I'll buy the white paint that the rest of the boat is going to be painted in afterwards. So that's probably the step that I'm going to take, is just prime it all up, and then we'll put it on the boat, and then once we go to paint the entire boat, we'll pull that back out again and we'll give that a coat of white. And then during the build we might ding it or whatever, and we might be able to patch those little bits up there and then. So we're getting there. Next step, do the back, and then then fair it and sand it. And then I've got to look at what sort of strips I'm going to put on to run in my slides I'm making. So progress, we'll be back on this tomorrow and do a bit more work. So I've got the first side done and I've flipped it over, trimmed it all up, and I've cut out the new piece of cloth to go on top, and we'll just got that all prepped up, ready to go. I'm just about to mix my resin, pour it on top, and we'll roll this one out. So I've just gone over and given it a trim up, and I've given it a bit of a sand. So I'm just going to go over with a bit of the thickened epoxy. We've got a couple little divots here or there that we've got to fill in, one here. And it's pretty flat, eh? This fiberglassing matting did a pretty decent job of getting a nice flat uniform surface. I just got to put a little bit of a radius on the edge there and just pretty it up a little. Which is pretty close to being right as is. I could have just given it a couple of sprays with a high fill primer and sanded it a few times and she would have been alright. But we'll just touch up a couple of bits and get it in some primer. I got a nice layer of thickened epoxy all over this hatch here, this slide. A few dribs I've got to sand off. It looks like you can see the cloth through it, and it's nice and smooth. So we're going to have to give that a light sand all over the top. I'll flip it over and put another layer of thickened epoxy over the bottom. So that brings us to the end of this week's episode. So I'm pretty happy with the Companionway Slide. It looks amazing. It could do with a little bit more sanding, but it is Christmas Eve today and I need to get back to spending some time with the kids. Can't stay out in the workshop sanding this Companionway Slide. So I hope everyone else has a safe and Merry Christmas, and I guess have a good New Year's too, because this will be the last episode for the year. It's Christmas Eve today, so we won't get another episode out until after the New Year's. So everyone have a safe one. We've been doing this YouTube channel now for 1 year. 6th of January we started. So that's a lot of effort going into making multiple videos every week. We did miss 1 or 2 weeks. but we try to get them out every single week. We're going to continue to do so next year. So hopefully everyone's enjoying the episodes. Leave a comment and a like, and if you're not subscribed, just see if you can sign up. Thanks guys, and we'll see you next year.